Good morning, y'all, y buenos dias. So for today's video, I wanted to share with y'all how I taught Luna how to read. So before we even get started, I really want to emphasize that we should not be comparing our children to other children, that we should not be expecting our children to do or meet certain criteria when other kids meet it, right? Like, we don't want to put that kind of pressure on our children. When our kids are ready to meet certain milestones or to complete certain tasks, they will signal that they're ready. Of course, it is our job to try to provide as many opportunities and try to make an environment where they're engaged, but like I mentioned, just not adding any sort of pressure on them to perform, because at the end of the day, we want to foster this love of learning. We want to encourage them to expand their horizons and to try new things. And if we are emphasizing a certain perfection, a certain type of behavior, as opposed to just encouraging, then they'll pick up on that. Kids are very intuitive, and they'll pick up on whether you're just like, when are you gonna read? Or just making it really fun, like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to practice this? You know, like, it's a lot about how you frame it, because even us as adults, you know, if someone explains something to us in a really hype way and like kind of frames it right, you're a lot more inclined to want to do something, as opposed to, it's time to do this and you need to do it, you know, like you're gonna be like, nah, like I don't want to do that. So I just really wanted to talk about that before I get started. So Luna was reading at about the age of 3.5. We started this process obviously since she was born. She is very inclined to sitting and reading. I know that a lot of kids aren't like that, and it just depends on the nature of your child. So keep that in mind as well. But my number one first thing to do is to read to your child. Read to your child as often from the very beginning, from before the beginning, since they're in the womb. Like, you need to be constantly just showing that environment of reading, of sitting down and doing that. Kids will oftentimes follow our own pattern of behavior, and so by them growing up and seeing, wow, you know, like they just stay reading all the time, like that's encouraging them to just follow along that path. And obviously this is not an always set sure thing, but it'll definitely help your kid be more inclined to do so. And so by reading not just children's book to your children, but everything, read signs, read all kinds of stuff. And I made an entire video on the importance of reading to your child, and I'll link that down below as well. But that's the number one thing, first thing you got to do. You can start that yesterday, is to read to your child as often as possible. Okay, and now getting more into how to teach them to read is emphasize letter sounds instead of letter names. That is something that kind of like blew my mind when I first started learning about this, because we're just always emphasizing letter names, and letter names don't really mean anything. And so we say A, B, C, you know, C is for cat, but really it's K, right? Like, I was mind blown. I was like legit mind blown. I was like, how did we go this long without this being like the thing? And so anytime that you're showing something, you know, pin. So just emphasize those beginning letter sounds, because it's a lot easier for them to catch on beginning letter sounds because they're more emphasized. And so as you're going along with that, book. And as that progresses, you can go into flashcards with the actual letter on it. We first started off with the letter with lowercase, because typically most of the letters that we read are lowercase. And so we started with that. And I also have a video, and I'll link that down below as well, of me just going through the letter sounds. I know that helped out a lot of people, because I know that not everyone has the abundance of time. And so just by letting your kiddos see those letter sounds with the letter on there can really help kind of solidify that idea. And so, yeah, so letter sounds as often as possible. Just when they're eating, carrot, peas, you know, just emphasizing it all the time. And kids are really hype when they learn a new skill, as many of y'all know. And so they'll want to do it all the time. Door. And just emphasize and make it hype. You gotta like make it exciting. Don't ever make learning into a bad thing. Don't ever make learning into a chore. You want them to be excited about it. You want them to be thrilled at the new skills that they're learning. And so at any point, if they're ever not catching on in the way that you think they are, don't discourage them by like, oh, no, this is not how you do it, because that's only gonna make them want to do it less. And so what you want to do is really get hype when they are doing it the correct way, when they are getting things right. And so encourage them in whatever way that they are enjoying doing it, whether that's pointing at the letter duh when they see it, or the reverse, seeing something and then saying the letter. So when you're emphasizing those letter sounds, I really enjoyed, it's called the My First Bob Brooks collection, and it's the pre-readers collection. This one has all of the letters, and it's just, let me show y'all real quick. Ant, apple, super simple. And then there's a couple sentences with the different letters, and this just kind of tunes their ear to what those letter sounds are. And also included with these are these like additional pre-reader stories. And so this one's called The Picnic, and it's about matching shapes. And so inside it gives you a detailed description as to why it's important for them to know matching shapes for reading. And it's really cool. It really helps the adult in the situation understand the different pre-reader skills that they need, such as matching shapes will help them recognize letters later on. Next is letter blends. And so once they have mastered all of the letter sounds, that they can see all of the letters and really know those letter sounds, you want to make sure that they know it in order, b, k, and also completely out of order, just like a random letter, Once they've got that down, you're going to want to start with letter blends. So, b. And this seems like such an easy thing, but it's a lot more difficult, especially when they're first starting off. And so what you'll want to do is, again, emphasize those letter blends as often as you can. And then you can do flashcards if that's something that your child is up for. I know that a lot of kids are just like not about it. But with Luna, we would do little flashcards, or I would write it down. I would write down the letter blend, and she would just go along and say it. And then we would make up words that start off with that letter blend. So black, you know, and once she was hearing those words, she was better able to identify it in her head what that letter sound was. And next is the super fun part. And so those are CVCs. Those are consonant, vowel, consonant words like cat, dog, sat. And luckily enough, there are so many words that are in that format. And so there are so many really fun ways to do this. So one of the ways that we were able to do it is we had a couple of figurines, and we had tons of wooden letters. That's like one of the things that I really think that every homeschool family, or every family who's trying to teach their little ones how to read, is any type of letter, either magnets or wooden letters, so that your child is able to like physically see and feel the letters. But one of the things that we did with that was we would take a figurine, let's say of a dog, and so Luna and I would work together and try to decode d, a, g. And she would, you know, kind of move those letters until we were able to make those. And as she started to get a little bit better with that, we started doing it in reverse. And so we would see the letter d, a, g. And there, like I said, there's so many really fun ways to encourage children to read these. Also by just moving letters around and creating sounds. This makes them able to see that different letters signify different sounds that create words that have different meanings. Language is an amazing thing, y'all. And so even with me teaching her how to do these things, I'm just like mind blown at how complex yet simple some of these ideas are. So once kiddos are really enjoying reading CVCs, I suggest the set one. This one's the beginning readers, and y'all, it's such a blast because this just helps encourage them and is showing them that what they're learning is like applicable and it's not just some vague whatever. And so these are really, really cute. Luna has read these a million times. So very, very simple, starting off only with words that they are able to decode. I love the illustrations. They're like super simple and really cute. But yeah, so these are, I highly recommend, and they kind of go in the order of their ability as well. And so in this set, there are 12 books. And like I said, they're all within the realms of what they're capable of reading. So once your kiddo is just rocking and rolling with the CVCs, you will want to start with sight words. And sight words for us, they kind of differ for different people. Some people use sight words as any high frequency word that is seen, but I like to really emphasize on words that just don't fall into the phonetic rules. So words like of, those words that they aren't able to decode just by knowing their letter sounds. Some of the first ones that we started with were a and the and of, just a couple before they really start figuring out letter blends such as th, ch, sh, things like that. And so you'll want to really keep it as simple as possible, but giving them the ability to read as much material as they can within their level. So once Luna was completely able to read these Bob books very easily, just on her own, that's when we started our All About Reading program. We are almost done with level 1. We have literally one little lesson left. One lesson left. We're on lesson 53, and this is where we really started digging into more advanced reading. So like I mentioned, those SHs, those double O's, those double E's, those different rules, open syllables, things like that. That's when we really started digging in, and I cannot emphasize how amazing this program is. The way that it's laid out is just so homeschool friendly, as well as the fact that there's a lot of hands-on activities that go with this. Luna absolutely loves just sitting down and doing worksheets, but I know that all kids are not like that, and you don't want to push on worksheets a kid that's not feeling it. And that's why I really like about this is that they give you so many different ideas for different style learners. And so with that program, I'll put a link to my flip through of that program that I have as well. But with that, we got these little readers, and they work perfect with the program, but because they go along with what level they're at. And so they will only be given words that they are able to decode depending on the lesson that they're in. And so now Luna has completed Run, Bug, Run, the Run Pig. And now we only have 2 stories left for this one. And this is what she's able to read now. And it's kind of mind-blowing because of the fact of how quickly it went. I was very surprised at how much information she was able to retain, because it blows my mind to this day how complex languages are. I mean, they're not easy to learn, especially when you're decoding a language. And so I was so surprised, and she's so excited all the time whenever we get to a new story because she's able to read it. And I think that that's a gift that we can really give our children, that is something that is unexplainable, y'all. Like, being able to read opens so many doors in so many different ways, not only in the more traditional educational way, but just in the way that we express ourselves, the way that we're able to understand the language that we're in. And so, yeah, that's how I taught Luna how to read. Right now, we are at the very end of the All About Reading program, and I'm just so excited because right now we're just, I printed out a couple of worksheets from Teachers Pay Teachers, and I'll link a couple of the ones that I'm working with right now. It's tons of CVC practice, some sight word practice, and so just to kind of keep us going up until I'm able to buy the next program. So she will be on level 2 on the All About Reading, And we're gonna start that right around January at the beginning of the year. But yeah, that is it. That is how I taught Luna how to read. As always, if y'all have any comments or questions, head over to my Instagram. Gracias for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.